What's up, everyone? It's Adar coming at you with another episode of Startup Engineering Daily. So our first story will cover a piece that we talked about yesterday, which is TL Draw is no longer accepting external contributors. They aren't open source, but they are source available. So we have Glauber Costa, I think you say his name, who's the CEO of Turso, which is a super popular SQLite provider. I'm not sure if it's exactly SQLite or if it's just SQLite compatible, but people that like SQLite love Turso. And he's saying they have a solution for this, inconvenient but not concerned. The incentive structure of open source software, we'll talk about that in the story, how Astro was acquired by Cloudflare. But at this point here, where he's talking about the non-financial value of making a name for yourself and improving your future prospects, I think that used to be true about open source, and maybe with AI coding, it is still true that you can make a name for yourself, but open source is a lot of work. Commercial stuff is where the money's at in tech for sure. And it's kind of like Paul Graham would say, like, open source is kind of like the passion projects, whereas you need your day job while you're still like making money to fund the passion, But you're not going to be able to live off open source unless you really commercialize it. Our next story is a doozy and huge drama, so super exciting, and it'll be very consequential what happens here. But essentially, we have a tweet here from Greg Brockman, who is the CTO of OpenAI and a founder, and essentially Elon and this guy Whole Mars Catalog, Freudian slip. They've been going through the discovery and all the paperwork that's been released, and also internal tech emails has been releasing a bunch of the emails. So fascinating to see how these guys work internally. But essentially, Greg Brockman had this diary that's been claimed as part of discovery, and I don't know what this tweet exactly was saying. Is he glorious leader that I would pick? Oh, yeah. So they do talk a little bit about how they want to change. Yeah, here, like committed to a nonprofit. They want to change from a nonprofit to a C Corp or a B Corp. And now, who knows where they're at. And this court case between Elon and OpenAI, which is going to court April 27th, they're going to trial, has like Brockman's personal files. They've been posting a bunch about it. And then Elon just obviously, they openly discuss their conspiracy to commit fraud and steal the charity, which they did steal his money, and Elon is a founder of OpenAI, whether they like it or not. But Greg Brockman, current CTO of OpenAI, and the diary has responded. So I just love that all the beef, everything, like all these huge billionaire guys are talking on Twitter, which is owned by Elon as well. So that's just funny as well. But he's saying basically that Elon also knew that they were going to have to switch from a nonprofit to a B Corp, which is obvious. And also I pointed out too, I don't know if it's in this one. Oh yeah, here. So Greg Brockman's just like financially what will take me to $1 billion, These guys are all the same. Like everyone loves tech. We're all trying to improve it, but everyone's trying to get rich as well by building these huge companies. So we'll have to see. We still got a few months before the court case goes to trial, but I'm sure there'll be way more drama, way more discovery and all this stuff. Even with like the Epstein stuff that's been getting posted like a few weeks ago, it's just so crazy like how all these public information comes out during these trials. And this is like a private trial, right? So it's not even like anyone's trying to be convicted for a crime. So it's cool that we still get to see the discovery from all of it, I guess because like it uses public resources. Next, just a super quick story. Nikita Beer, who's like chief or head of product, I guess, at X, they're announcing a $1 million to the top article posted on X. They're obviously trying to push their blogging platform. And I kind of like the blogging platform. I like how you can read it and it looks like a tweet, but it's a super long article. Obviously, this is going to be a popularity contest of sorts, but if you are popular, you have a super cool idea you've been holding off on and you want to possibly make $1 million, maybe use some agents to write a bunch of different articles that might go viral. Here's your chance, post about Steve Jobs' daughter or something. Who knows? It's interesting though, and good luck if you go for it. Here we have a cool little interesting blog. I haven't taken the time to read it yet, but the CEO of Greptile posted about how they're working with Anthropic to improve cache optimizations. My understanding of Greptile is it's like searching GitHub for public repos, and I'm sure they have like an enterprise piece as well. But apparently with cache optimizations, they're doing really low cost, 90% cache hit rates, the 1 million issues caught per month, who knows? But very cool to see like this low tech stuff. I've been discussing this with one of my colleagues where, all the bug fixes, all the little optimizations, nobody cares about. None of those things are going in news articles, but it's the stuff that builds up and really makes the product work the way it should work. And all of these optimizations really affect the developer experience at the end of the day. So pretty cool from Greptile. I'll have to check out the blog. And yeah, like this guy says here, cache optimizations are underrated. They don't just cut cost. And he's talking about deep context, but it's also latency as well, which he mentioned. So yeah, and we have this guy Kareem mentioning all the benefits of cache optimizations, not just cutting cost. The deep context, I'm not too sure exactly what he means, but latency and pricing is so important as well. So all these like deep, low level problems that have to be solved are so important. They have so much impact, but they just never get posted about. And it's cool that the CEO of Greptile is on stuff like this. And it's really cool when you have like technical minded CEOs posting about this important stuff. And obviously they get to take advantage of it for marketing too and being partnered with Anthropic. Next, we have this interview. My colleague actually sent me this video and I just kind of watched it in the background, but it's so fascinating, especially some of the questions it answers. But it's with this guy, Suleiman Gori, who works at XAI, but we'll get into that in a second. And it's interviewed by this guy, T.I. Morse. I hadn't heard of him, but I guess he's really well known because the set is super like spiffed up. You can see, I don't know how much is green screen, but it's a really cool like fireplace set where they did the interview, super chill. And he has all the timestamps for everything that goes through. So really interesting. You can learn about like how Elon deals with fires, which is like, when he's coming into each company and fixing something and then going to the other company. Interesting thing about a Cybertruck bet where they were like, if you can get the model training in the next 24 hours, we'll give you a Cybertruck. Not to him, but one of the other engineers. And I guess he successfully did it. It was really cool. And just how they work at XAI, I think they said it's about 100 people. He's like, nobody tells me no. Everyone's an engineer. He talks about how he was talking to a salesperson on the team, and then they were talking about how they were training a model. So interesting culture. You never know what they're holding back, but they do talk about like how they would push things that would break or get deleted, and everything's reversible. And they also talked about like how they can deploy across teams. So he was saying like if there's something wrong with like the VMs, I think he was talking about, he can just go and fix that. He just needs to get a review. I'm sure it's probably like an RFC or a design document that he's proposing, and then the person who owns it can just approve it and he can go execute it. So that's a really cool process. OpenAI has launched a new tier called Go, which is a T3 chat competitor. I believe it's also $8 a month and lets you use ChatGPT, with limited usage. I think they give you like some X percentage more usage than the $8 would go towards, but it is a competitor with T3 chat where it's trying to give you a lower price, but for fixed usage, and I'm sure they probably balance the models around to make sure it's cheap for everyone. And I have no problem with that. It's an interesting competitor. But they also announced that in the coming weeks, they plan to start testing ads in ChatGPT free and Go tiers. And Go is the $8 T3 chat competitor. And it's very interesting. They're saying responses in ChatGPT will not be influenced by ads. Ads are always separate and clearly labeled. Your conversations are private from advertisers. Plus, Pro, Business, and Enterprise tier will not have ads. So very interesting. They talk a lot about it. We can see here a little format. I'm not sure how much gets caught here, but Harvest Grocery sponsored. Pretty cool. This is kind of what you would build into like a normal chat app that showed products. So I'm not mad at the embeds. And they said they're focusing on logged in adults in the US. I'm not sure how you can actually enter to have your ads displayed. It's probably an internal test because they are calling it an ads test for free and Go plans. Plus, Pro, Business, and Enterprise stay ad free. So I actually won't experience this. And if you pay $20 a month, you won't experience this. But something to keep in mind, and just cool to see like how the market evolves, because I used to be such an ads hater. I was always like, I just want people to pay me like $5 a month for my product, but people do not want to pay for software at any means necessary. They will happily look at 100 ads when they're scrolling through Reels versus paying $5 to use a social media or any kind of app that isn't like directly tied to business. So I kind of had to learn to accept that the hard way. I never did launch a product that was like fully ads based, so I can't fully speak to it, but it's definitely a very valid experiment, and Google is run on ads, Facebook is run on ads. So these companies don't make money selling products. They make money selling ads based on the views and the view count that they have. And it's kind of similar to content in a weird way. There's that layer where brands are trying to go past Facebook and directly to the creators so they can save money on margin. I saw a founder was talking about on TBPN. He was saying how he would be okay if OpenAI took 40% of their revenue because they give 50% to Facebook anyway for the advertising on Instagram and Facebook, I'm sure. Google, I'm not so sure about these days, how much people are spending or what the CPM is or what percentage of revenue goes towards it, but it is a meme in the industry that like almost all the VC money just ends up going back to Facebook or Google. And our last story for today is that Cloudflare has acquired the Astro.build team. The project is MIT licensed, so you can't always fork it even if they change it. I doubt they will, but it does speak to this new age where you can't monetize open source, similar to the story we talked about earlier with Turso saying how they're going to fix the contributions and talking about monetization. But, the Astro team, all they can sell is like design stuff, which nobody cares about anymore because AI will do all of it. It's kind of the same problem that Tailwind had. Or you can sell like enterprise hosting, essentially, which is what Vercel did. They're doing really well because they're super innovative and they love developers. I guess all these guys love developers, but they really know how to make great developer experience and like capture the market of people who are trying to publish things super quick, especially Next.js apps. I don't use Astro because even for like the best framework for content-driven websites, I'm always like, look at New York Times, like they have games built into their website. And I know you can have like different platforms for that, but I just feel like Next is so fine for static rendering. Maybe if you have tens of thousands of pages, then Astro matters. And I know there is like use cases for Astro. I'm sure it's performance, memory, cost, but it's just so hard for me to get off Next when you can do everything as opposed to just content driven where I'm like, okay, now we want to add a login. I have to do like a random JavaScript as opposed to it just being a React component built in. And maybe for Astro that doesn't matter because it would be like static, but any kind of like application, I believe people just leave Astro and go to Next. So it's like you're always going to want these application features. I feel like the demand is so high for it. But that was a bit of a tangent. The main point is that Cloudflare has acquired Astro, so the guys are making money. That's always great to see. We love the open source exits and just exits in general. They worked really hard. They've been working at Astro for a long time, and it'll be cool to see what they can deliver for Cloudflare. If this kind of stuff interests you and you want to talk with some like-minded people, join the Audinato Discord in the description. Thanks.